tickles the ivories with his idol Victor Borga. Don't miss these dog days on The Muppet Show, beginning Monday at 7:30 on Channel 2.
Carol Martin, now on Channel 2 News at 5. From CBS News, this is Nightwatch with Karen Stone, Harold Dow, Felicia Jeter, and Chris Glenn.
Good morning, I'm Karen Stone. Today on Nightwatch, crime and what to do about it. We'll talk about Washington's drive against the drug kings with Associate Attorney General Rudolph Giuliani.
And we're going to be taking a look at some recent hostage takings that got a lot of press coverage. I'm Felicia Jeter. Good morning to you. This morning we're going to be talking about this question. Who's using whom when the media cover a crime?
And we'll be serving you up an appetizing survey of good old American food. Its international reputation is growing. I'm Chris Glenn. We'll also have series highlights of the Milwaukee Bruisers, if you will, right after Harold Dow in the news.
Thank you, Chris, and good morning to you. Lebanese President Amin Gemayel takes the center stage at the United Nations General Assembly today. The 40-year-old leader is expected to ask the world body for help in rebuilding his war-torn nation. Gemayel will also reportedly call for a 3-month extension of the UN peacekeeping force in southern Lebanon. Gemayel arrived in New York on Sunday, less than a month after becoming Lebanon's new head of state. Andrea Naverson reports.
It was only the first stop on a 3-nation tour, but for Lebanese President Amin Gemayel, it could be the most crucial. Gemayel told reporters he needs U.S. political and economic support to bind his country's wounds and rebuild.
I will be emphasizing in front of the United Nations and with the American administration the urgency of the withdrawal of all foreign forces from Lebanon and the need for a comprehensive program of reconstruction.
Later at a reception, Lebanese Americans shouted their support for Gemayel, who in turn pledged to rebuild his battered country after 8 years of civil war.
Very soon, and you will return to your country to participate, and we will participate all together to build this new country, this new Lebanon, for which 5,000 of our beautiful Lebanese are died.
Later today, Gemayel will address the UN General Assembly. On Tuesday, he'll meet with President Reagan, who's promised additional economic aid. Andrea Naverson, CBS News, New York.
Fugitive leaders of Poland's Solidarity Trade Union are urging workers in 4 cities to stay off their jobs this morning. The call comes after a weekend lull in protests against the government ban of solidarity. Riot police, meanwhile, were out in force Sunday in the steel town of Nowa Huta. Authorities are bracing for renewed violence there on Wednesday when a worker killed in last week's riots will be buried. Airline safety officials will examine whether a former World War II plane that crashed on Sunday, killing all 14 aboard, may have been overloaded. The plane stalled soon after takeoff, then crashed in a desert area and burst into flames. It had been carrying 12 skydivers, a jumpmaster, and a pilot. That type of plane usually is certified to hold only 10 people. At dawn today, the Coast Guard is expected to resume its search off the New Jersey shore for the crew of the missing crewmen of a Colombian Air Force plane. The cargo plane crashed into the ocean on Saturday. 4 crewmen are believed to be still aboard, possibly alive, breathing from air pockets that are keeping the plane afloat. And that rash of drug contaminations continues on Sunday. Bottles of Lavouris mouthwash were pulled from the shelves of a Clearwater, Florida store after 4 were found to contain acid. Officials say the tamperings were confined only to that store. President Reagan says, quote, his heart bleeds for the unemployed. That comment in this week's issue of U.S. News and World Report magazine came in response to a statement by House Speaker Tip O'Neill. O'Neill said President Reagan has ice water in his veins when dealing with the jobless. The president declared that he understands the traumatic effects of unemployment from his own personal experience during the Depression. And there's also sympathy for the jobless from another source this morning. A 22-year-old Chicago man is launching a line of sympathy cards for the recently unemployed.
There's one industry the Reagan administration wants to run into the ground. It's the multi-billion-dollar drug trade. Next on Nightwatch, Associate Attorney General Rudolph Giuliani describes the new look of an old battle.
This portion of Night Watch is sponsored by the Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal, all the business news you need.
If you have to wait a week for business news, maybe it's not news anymore. The Wall Street Journal gives you today's business news today, so you can use it today.
Get all the business news you need when you need it. Get the Wall Street Journal. Delivered every business day for 6 months for $47, just 37 cents a day. Phone toll-free 800-228-6260. That's 6 months, $47, only 37 cents a day. Phone 800-228-6260 now.
When you're getting your kids' act together, get together with JCPenney's Super Cords. High-kicking Super Cord corduroy jeans, now 20% off. They've got smooth style, long-wearing durability, and a great cast of colors. All at a price that won't give you the blues. So get your act together. Step on down and get your kids into Super Cords. Now 20% off. Super Cord corduroy jeans, only at JCPenney.
Remember how you suffered the last time you had a head cold? Well, remember this. To relieve congestion, sinus pressure, sneezing, and runny nose, no leading nasal spray offers more kinds of relief ingredients than 4-way nasal spray. Dristan long-lasting doesn't. Duration doesn't. Afrin doesn't. 4-way works with a combination of 2 decongestants and an antihistamine. In fact, no leading spray relieves more kinds of cold symptoms than 4-way. Not Dristan, not Duration, not Afrin. Remember 4-way next time you have a cold.
My brother Francis and I are in the business of saving souls. I also save money and budget. Francis goes elsewhere. Not only do I get the budget price, I get this tuck-away tote bag, free. On future rentals, I'll pick up certificates toward this entire collection. With all this free luggage, I may rent from budget for an eternity. Oh, brother Francis. Perhaps you'd consider converting?
You get more than just a car at Budget.
America's drug problem. It's not old news. It's an old crisis that's getting worse. Now, 2 weeks before Election Day, President Reagan comes forth with a new war on drugs. Will it help, or is it politics as usual? For the answers, we have as our guest this morning, Rudolph Giuliani, Associate Attorney General with the Justice Department. He's going to tell us what this war is all about. Good morning and welcome to Night Watch.
Good morning.
A lot of people are concerned. Did I mispronounce your name?
Giuliani.
I was hoping that's what I said. I have it written out phonetically here, Giuliani. I don't want to call you Giuliani like the conductor in L.A. A lot of people are saying that this war on drugs that the president has been talking about now is just something that's political, that you know, the problem is not new, so why is the solution?
Well, I don't know really what that means political. It isn't political in the sense of bipartisan. This is a program that's supported by Republicans, Democrats. It's something that's really developed over a long period of time.
In other words, it's 2 weeks before elections. This will make possibly the Republicans, by way of making the president look better.
Actually, this is the result of the task force that we've had in South Florida for now about 6 or 7 months, the South Florida Task Force, that has been quite successful in stemming the flow of drugs into that area. And what we're hoping to do is to mount an effort like that in 12 other regions throughout the United States, using a lot of the things we learned in South Florida elsewhere.
How successful is successful?
Well, you know, this is the problem of crime, and you're not going to wipe it out, you're not going to end it, you'd have to change human nature to end it. Successful means being able to exert greater control over the drugs coming into this country and over the criminal activity of those people who are involved in it.
But can you measure the success that you've had so far?
You can measure it in the price of drugs, what's happening to that, to the availability of it, the number of arrests that you make, the amount of drugs that you seize. You cut into the problem. You can't stop completely the flow of drugs into this country, but by dealing with source countries, trying to get them to eradicate the crop, by offering them incentives to do so, which we do, by beefing up your border patrol, and then by working on these organized criminal enterprises that deal in drugs in the interior, you can cut the problem back pretty substantially.
What are the countries that we're really talking about when we talk about drugs?
Well, it depends on the drug. If you're talking about cocaine and marijuana, you're principally talking about South American countries, Colombia being the principal one. If you're talking about heroin, then you're talking about Southeast Asia, the Golden Triangle, and then the transshipment countries, West Germany, Italy, France.
So how are you going to deal with the politics involved with that? That has been a big problem. Everybody says you're throwing money at the problem on this end. Why don't you nip it in the bud?
Well, we offer a good deal of foreign aid conditioned on countries participating with us in the drug problem. Unfortunately, some of those countries are communist-controlled countries. In Vietnam and in that area of the world, a good deal of the poppy crop is grown from which heroin comes. And we don't have diplomatic relations with them.
And so you don't expect a great deal of cooperation.
That's right.
So how are you going to handle that if this is going to really be successful?
In that situation, we have to rely upon trying to stop the drugs in the countries to which they're transshipped. In some cases, Italy, in some cases, West Germany. We've gotten a good deal more cooperation from both those governments in the last couple of years because, strangely, they're developing a heroin problem of their own. And they're beginning to understand our problems much better than they did before.
So we're getting more support.
We're getting more support internationally than we ever have before on the drug problem because other countries are starting to feel those problems domestically, and therefore they're beginning to understand ours.
You seem to be real optimistic about this new money and this new program. We're talking maybe $200 million. Is that really enough to be serious about this?
Yes, it is, and you have to see that relative to where we stand. That permits us an over 10% increase in the overall size of the FBI and the DEA. It permits us about a 25 to 30% increase in the number of federal agents that we have available to do drug work. That's a big infusion of manpower very quickly, 25 to 30% increase in the number of federal agents that we will have available to do drug work.
A lot of those agents are going to be brand new. What can we expect from baby agents?
Well, we're going to have to phase them in. We will use experienced agents in these task forces that will be set up in 12 places all over the country. They'll have a minimum of 100 agents in each one of the task forces, and we'll take experienced agents and put them in the task force and then backfill. In other words, they'll be taken off other assignments, and we will hire younger agents and train them and then work them into drug work. We're not going to throw in...
We'll be back to talk about some more about this drug problem and President Reagan's war on it when we come back to Night Watch.
According to New York law enforcement officials, illegal drug trade in the United States totals $90 billion a year.
Every day we have 2.5 hours to report the news. Only 2.5 hours. And every day there seems to be more and more news to report, which makes for some very difficult choices. Which stories, which features do we use? Well, the ones that affect you the most affect your entire life, your family, your friends, your work. The things that could hurt you and help you. Now, that's Channel 2 News. If it concerns you, it concerns us.
Crazy Eddie wants you to be sure your home and family are protected from criminal break-in. That's why Crazy Eddie is your home security center with a full line of products to protect you, like the BSR System X10 that makes your house look lived in when you're not around, the Perimetron wireless alarm system, and the ultrasonic alarms that are easy to install and simple to use, the Lookout TV home security system that lets you monitor against unwanted intruders, outsmart burglars, and protect your home and family from harm. See Crazy Eddie now, before it's too late.
Sometimes the best things in life are the simplest. For example, I'm allergic to penicillin. So like more than 1 million other Americans, I wear this Medic Alert emblem. Engraved on the back is my special condition, plus a 24-hour phone number to provide life-protecting information about me within seconds. You see, Medic Alert will speak for me in emergency, in case I can't. So take good care of yourself and join today. For information, write or call Medic Alert.
Moments for you on CBS. Great moments for you on CBS.
We're gaining in the fight against cancer. I'm living proof.
Share the cost of living. Give to the American Cancer Society.
President Reagan has launched a new war on drugs 2 weeks before Election Day. This new offensive has raised many questions, needless to say, some legal, some moral, some political. To help offer us some answers, we return to our guest, Associate Attorney General Robert Giuliani. I did your name properly that time, I'm certain, because I was thinking about it. Oh, no, give me a break. We're going to change your name to Joe Brown. But I want to know some more about your problem vis-a-vis like the users. You're saying you're getting more success now from where the drugs are coming from, cooperation with other governments. What about the fact that there's a market for this? What do you do about that? If people want it, how are you ever really going to stop the flow?
Well, there is a market for it, but there's a decreasing market for it. Over the last year and a half, since so far as young people are concerned, there has been less use of marijuana from recent studies that I've seen. Less use of cocaine. There's been a slight increase in the amount of heroin use, although that had decreased for a while. I don't think we're in the situation where we were 5-6 years ago when there was just this increasing use of drugs. I think that there's been a lot done in the educational area. There's been a lot done in the treatment area that helps at least at that end of the problem. And obviously there's more we can do, but that's part of the whole offensive as well.
You have some problems, some potential problems just by the nature of bureaucracy. You have all these different federal agencies trying to solve the same problem. You have just innate rivalries between them because they're human beings involved. And now we're being told that you're taking money from somewhere else in government and putting it on this problem at a time when we're told that the fat has been removed. Where is this money coming from if the fat has been removed?
Well, it will come from other agencies of government outside of law enforcement. After all, the enforcement of the law is one of the prime purposes of government, and it really has to be a priority.
Well, every department says that. You know, if you take it from the health department, if you take it from, you know, food, wherever you take it from, that department is going to say, this has got to be a national priority. We can't function without it. Well, you know, I know that you're happy that you're getting the money, but what about the people who are losing it, the departments that are losing it?
Well, there's no doubt that those arguments can be made for almost any function of government. But if you go back to the core of government, why it was established to protect people from predators from within and invaders from without. I mean, that's the whole purpose of government, is to give people protection from crime. And this is probably the most important contribution the federal government can make, is to deal with the drug problem, to deal with the drug pushers and the drug dealers, to try to apprehend them. We can't apprehend all of them, and then to put them in jail and in prisons for long periods of time.
Now, you say you don't think this was political, since Democrats and Republicans are interested in solving the problem. But the president has been talking about solving this problem for a long time. If it was an old priority, why wasn't it in the budget?
Well, this is something that developed over a period of time. We've done things like bring the FBI into drug enforcement for the first time. We did that 9 months ago to try to solve some of the problems you mentioned before of competition between federal agencies. We've established law enforcement coordinating committees in 94 districts all throughout the United States to bring together state and local law enforcement. We established a South Florida task force. That was very successful, but it diverted a lot of drug shipments into other areas of the United States. These 12 task forces that will be a big infusion of new manpower were the natural development of all of that. It was the lessons we learned in those other areas that showed us the way to do it. And this is not just a half-baked plan to use up manpower. This is a very specific, very focused kind of activity to deal with.
And you think the job can be done?
I'm absolutely certain it can be done. I've seen it done before, and I think South Florida is a good example of how it can be done.
Rudolph Giuliani, thank you so much for being with us here on Nightwatch this morning.
Thank you for having me.
The Milwaukee Brewers scattered their hits and runs in Game 5 of the World Series to take a 3-2 lead in the best-of-7 war. Yount 'em up. All they need is one more to clinch. Sports coming up next.
I smoke about a pack a day, and I thought, wow, my teeth are really getting yellow.
You use Topol Smoker's tooth polish with fluoride.
My teeth started getting whiter, and it gave like a shine to them that they hadn't had in a long time.
Topol, with 3 ingredients to clean and polish, removes ugly tobacco stains.
I tried the Topol tooth polish. I was very happy with it. And now I smile again all the time.
Topol Smoker's Tooth Polish. 3 ingredients to clean and polish. Removes ugly tobacco stains. Tested and proven gentle for everyday use.
When you're coaching today's young women, they ask all sorts of questions, even about tampons. So I tell them about Percet's doctor-designed feature for special comfort. Really different from all other tampons. And unlike tampons with bulky applicators, Percet's are very compact, yet you can count on them for tampon protection. To see Percet's unique feature, just look at the tampon. That's Percet's doctor-designed feature for special comfort. You'll love the difference, and use only as directed.
It's gonna be a great trip. Hi. Ooh, hey, hi. Hi.
No matter where people go, Conoco helps them get there. Our motor oils protect trucks over the long haul and farm equipment against the worst conditions.
Have a good trip.
A Conoco lubricant even protects the space shuttle. We use the same technology to make super and all-season motor oils for your car. Conoco, hottest brand going.
Tom Morton is lying. Look, I can't make it into the office today. I have an awful toothache. I can't tell him I have hemorrhoids.
Honey, try Tronolane.
Instead of Preparation H.
Tronolane works better.
Tronolane does work better. It not only reduces swelling, it relieves pain better, itching better, with a hospital-used medicine Preparation H just doesn't have. Looks like I'll be coming to work after all. My toothache's better. Switch to the better relief of Tronolane in Kramer suppositories.
Look around, fans. All of a sudden, the Milwaukee Brewers are just one game away from clinching the World Series pennant after winning Game 5 by the score of 6-4 over St. Louis. First inning, and Bob Forsch on a pickoff attempt threw wild into center field. As it turned out, Ted Simmons' grounder scored the Brewers' first run after the error. Third inning now, Keith Hernandez made a stop on a bad hop that killed a Brewers rally. The grounder scored Paul Molitor to make it 2-1 Brewers. In the seventh, George Hendricks singled to score Ozzie Smith, and St. Louis trailed 3-2. Cecil Cooper made an outstanding play on a Darrell Porter grounder to end the inning. Mike Caldwell was on top of the play, covering first for the out. Robin Yount, who went 4 for 4 again in this game, homered in the seventh to make it Milwaukee 4-2. And they got 2 more in the eighth. St. Louis came back with 2 in the ninth, but by then it was too late. 6-4, the Brewers have it. Some members of the National Football League played ball, while others just talked about it on Sunday. Jane Miller has the latest on the NFL negotiations.
It didn't draw much of a crowd, nor many of the big-name NFL players. But through a television deal, the first Striking Players All-Star Game on Sunday did draw about $500,000 for the Players Union. In a hotel outside Baltimore, the bargaining teams in the NFL moved into their 6th straight day of secret negotiations to end the football strike. The mediator in the talks, lawyer Sam Cagle, said the two sides have resolved many issues, but he offered no clue as to whether the players and management had moved any closer to a strike settlement. Negotiators for the players and owners were expected to start face-to-face meetings late Sunday night on the major unresolved issue in the strike, money. Sources close to the talks say the union is working to change the language of its salary demands to make them easier for management to swallow and to show management it's willing to be flexible. But sources say the union has no plans to stray from its basic proposal that players be paid according to seniority from a fund that would be controlled independently of the owners. Jane Miller, CBS News, Hunt Valley, Maryland.
As it turned out, the NFL beat the AFC 23-22 in that first All-Star game played by the Strikers. There were only 8,000 fans at the game, and if they were looking for razzle-dazzle play, this Don Strock to Ray Butler 61-yard pass fit the order. There weren't any major injuries in the game. As a matter of fact, there weren't even any injury timeouts. You suppose they might have just been holding back a little bit, getting ready for the real thing?
Why not? Why not? Well, if worrying about how to pay for your child's college education is keeping you awake at nights, more bad news. Carnegie Mellon University says all of its students are going to have to buy their own personal computers to be wired to the school system. The school is the first to make computers standard equipment. Prince Andrew is back on the job this morning, his leave from the Royal Navy over. Tales of his Caribbean holiday, however, continue. On Sunday, a British gossip columnist said the soft porn actress, Koo Stark, may have been a flamboyant decoy and that the prince's real love interest may have been another woman on the island. Way to go, Prince.
Chrysler today answers union demands for an immediate assembly line pay raise. A United Auto Workers strike is possible if there's no agreement by Friday. There is little to bargain for in Fort Wayne, Indiana, which used to be International Harvester territory. Liz Trotta of CBS News Sunday Morning reports the grim reaper of unemployment has hacked away the harvester way of life.
But the dark cloud of unemployment hangs over the lives of 11 million of our friends, neighbors, and family. At times, the sheer weight of all these facts and figures make them hard for anyone to understand.
Well, my feeling on that is that the president's just another man in a chair up there. There's really not much that he can do by himself.
And make no mistake, America is recovery bound, and the world knows it.
The world may have known about the recovery, the president may have known about the recovery, the stock exchange may have known about the recovery, but you couldn't prove it by Dennis Miller or the rest of the 11 million Americans without jobs. Dennis Miller was laid off last August. He has a wife, 4 children, and no savings. There is no bitterness in Dennis, but there is shock and confusion about how it all happened. We asked Harvester, which in truth is as victimized as the workers, to comment on its troubles. A spokesman declined, courteously and sadly, at least in part because so many men like Dennis Miller are walking the streets of Fort Wayne.
Now, you're a Fort Wayne boy, you're an Indiana boy, you're born and bred here. You had 2 brothers that worked for Harvester?
Yes, ma'am.
Your father worked for Harvester?
3 brothers.
3
and my brothers? father, yes.
Your father worked for Harvester? Yes. Harvester was really a member of your family, wasn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I see that still disturbs you a lot, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Well, tell me about that if you can.
Well, I think it's not being able to find another job.
You're trying very hard to do that, aren't you?
Yes, ma'am. Every day, I hit 2 or 3 places, you know.
Do you take any applications at any other time for like park department or street department or?
No, I'm sorry, we don't. Only as we have the certain positions open. Now, in the summertime, we take applications for the park department. But right now, they don't have anything.
With the wages I made, we cut corners on everything, you know, and we could go out for dinner once in a while and go to the show, but we couldn't do a lot of stuff. And I think about these people that's working for $3, $5 an hour and wonder how they make it. My neighbor man makes $5 an hour. He has 4 kids. But they're getting along.
They are getting along.
Not, you know, they're doing without a lot, but they're getting along. They had their heat turned off this past winter, you know.
Does that worry you?
Yeah, it does.
Mr. Miller, what's your zip code?
46805.
In a place like this, you do not hear the joyous bells of the stock exchange. You are apt to remember only that you worked in one place all of your adult life, and you don't anymore, and you won't.
Minor maintenance.
Was that at Harvester?
Yes, ma'am.
You know, really, nobody owes you anything. That's the way I try to look at it. You know, I got to get what I can get. But I would be much happier if I had a job and could take care of myself.
We'll have more news in just a moment.
From CBS News, this is Nightwatch with Karen Stone, Harold Dow, Felicia Jeter, and Christopher Glenn.
Good morning, I'm Karen Stone. Today we'll see the cold side of the summer game. Pat Bayless, a baseball whiz kid who slid on some hard times.
And we've got just the story to send you racing for the refrigerator, but turn the volume up on your set. We don't want to lose you. We're going to be talking about American cuisine. It's not just hamburgers anymore.
And we'll also tackle a sensitive question about ourselves, the media. Should the media play middleman in a life or death hostage situation? But first, Harold has the news.
Thank you, Chris. In this World Series pitting the baseball teams of America's two beer towns, the Milwaukee Brewers may have champagne on ice. The Brewers need only one more victory after Sunday's 6-4 win over St. Louis before the hometown fans. The Brewers led the Cardinals 3-2 in the best-of-7 series. The teams have today off. Game 6 will be Tuesday night in St. Louis. Lebanese President Amin Gemayel takes to the podium at the United Nations General Assembly today. The 40-year-old leader arrived in New York from his war-ravaged nation on Sunday. Gemayel met with Cardinal Terence Cook at Manhattan's St. Patrick Cathedral. On Tuesday, he'll fly to Washington for talks with President Reagan. Earlier, Gemayel outlined the purpose of his mission.
I will be emphasizing in front of the United Nations and with the American administration the urgency of the withdrawal of all foreign forces from Lebanon and the need for a comprehensive program of reconstruction so that my country can again its sovereignty and play its role in bringing peace to the region.
A defector from mainland China is in line to reap rewards from capitalism. He's the Chinese military officer who piloted his MiG jet fighter to South Korea this weekend. The government of Taiwan, itching for a propaganda victory over Peking, is now offering the pilot $2 million to turn himself and his plane over to the Taiwanese. Investigators are expected to look into whether a former World War II plane was carrying too many people when it crashed in a California desert area on Sunday. All 14 people aboard the plane perished. The converted Beechcraft was used by a skydiving school. The plane model is usually authorized to hold only 10 people. Los Angeles is the site of some tough closed-door union bargaining this week. The talks are not between labor and management. They're between labor and labor. The 61,000-member California State Employees Association is expected to merge with one of a few larger affiliates of the AFL-CIO. 4 separate unions are now vying for the chance to win over the California state workers. A 16-year-old high school pupil, Eric Afholter, did something pretty special this weekend. Watch this. In a California high school football game, Eric kicked a 64-yard field goal. Here it is on slow motion. Now, nobody in high school or in college or even in the pros ever kicked a field goal that far. We can show you this kick because someone happened to take these pictures, these black and white pictures of the game between the Oak Park Eagles and the Carpinteria Warriors. The networks were not on hand for this historic event. A cable network did cover this professional football league game on Sunday. It was the first of a projected series of 19 all-star games held by the striking National Football League Players Association. The sponsors said some 8,000 tickets were sold to the game. Meanwhile, negotiations are continuing between representatives of the union and the owners in an effort to end the 4-week strike. We'll have more on the World Series, the football talks, and the rest of the sports later in this half hour.
And coming up on Night Watch, the baseball star who never shined. Pat Bayless found out the hard way that diamonds were not his best friend, and we'll dive into some real American food. The best cooking in the world might be right in your own kitchen.
Today's weather, precipitation will be light with only 1/4 inch amounts across the Gulf Coast and in the northern Rockies. Eastern Montana may receive up to 2 inches of snow. Around the nation, Boston will be sunny with a high of 58. Miami partly cloudy and 79. Chicago partly cloudy and 70. And Seattle partly cloudy and 58.
Potemkin presents Dial a Cadillac. Dial Potemkin, tell them exactly what car I want, and they'll give me a quote right over the phone. I can't believe it. It's true. Call Potemkin and get a firm price right on the phone for any 1983 Cadillac. Hello, Potemkin. I'd like to get a price on a 1983 coupe. If you're in the market for a 1983 car, you owe it to yourself to dial Potamkin first. How much? I'll be right down.
If this nameplate isn't on the back of your car, you probably paid more than you should have.
Joey was an abused child. At 12 years old, he ran away from home 3 times. At 17, he was spending all night on the street. At 21, he committed his first armed robbery. At 25, he was serving 15 years in prison. Joey was an abused child, and that abused childhood influenced what happened to him later. Yet, child abuse can be prevented. Help us get to the heart of the problem. Help us prevent child abuse.
Great moments for you on CBS.
Now is the best time to buy broadloom at Kaufman, because Monday and Tuesday, you'll save $3 to $5 a square yard during our 3-for-1 carpet sale. That means you get quality broadloom installed wall-to-wall over genuine rubber padding for just $9.99 a square yard.
Today's most wanted broadlooms, expertly installed in your home over soft rubber padding. On sale for $9.99.
Come to Kaufman's 3-for-1 sale Monday and Tuesday.
It could mean the carpet savings of your life.
15 years ago, Pat Bayless was a minor league baseball sensation. He had a 100-mile-an-hour fastball and a seemingly limitless future. But life threw Pat Bayless a curve, and today he can only look back in anger at what might have been. Dan Adams of KXTV Sacramento has his story.
He gave 140% of his life, his effort, his talent to the game of baseball, and they gave him crap in return.
Lowell Bayless is a bitter man. He feels he has good reason to be. His bitterness evolves from what happened to his son Pat, and how Pat's experience has left a deep hurt in the Bayless family. The story started back in the late 1950s, when coaxed by his father, Pat began catching, then pitching with the Livermore Little League. Despite some health problems, Pat went on to pitch during his early teenage years at Livermore High School, boasting one of the most impressive records in school history. In 1967, at age 18, Pat Bayless was signed with the Philadelphia Phillies. While at their farm club in Bakersfield, the tall, slender right-hander pitched a no-hitter and broke Don Drysdale's strikeout record, a knack he carried with him while playing Double-A ball in Reading, Pennsylvania, and Triple-A ball in Eugene, Oregon.
I was good, better than average, outstanding most of the time, because I was an 800% pitcher, or 750. You know, like I won 70% of my games is what I'm saying.
It wasn't long before Pat Bayless became the pride of Livermore. So much so that a local fan club was started, and even this baseball diamond was named after him. But in 1971, following a recurring injury, Pat's luck ran out. And what followed, according to his family, was simply a tragedy. To relieve the pain from nerve problems in his back, Pat says that team doctors gave him uncontrolled doses of butazolidine, which in recent years has been found to cause significant personality changes in some individuals. In 1971, Pat was released from the Phillies, and at that time, family members say he came home a different man.
At a point, he thought that his father was Joe DiMaggio. The Virgin Mary was his mother. Yes, I realized then that he was sick. I probably would have been making close to $1 million a year now, right up there with Carlton and Ryan and all those guys, and Bruce Gossage of the Yankees, because they praise Gossage like he's God, man, and he throws 95. Well, I threw 95 or better. And I was only 20 years old. I was throwing 103 miles an hour the night I pitched my no-hitter.
Since 1971, Bayless has been in and out of Napa State Hospital 3 times. Each week, he is given an injection to control his emotions. He spends most of his time now smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee at a Livermore restaurant. That's when he is not at St. Michael's Church trying to sort out his thoughts. And his parents, they have found their own special way of coping.
Well, I keep a lot of things inside. And people say, you know, it doesn't seem to bother you at all. Well, it does bother me. But it's mostly inside. And probably always will bother me.
Phillies officials are not commenting on the Pat Bayless case as litigation is pending. As for Pat, he has few souvenirs left of his once promising career. A few years ago, he tore up his scrapbook and threw away most of his equipment. He doesn't have any desires to play baseball anymore. He's just trying to figure out what went wrong. And already, he has some answers.
The good Lord's taking care of me. I'm fine. I did have a problem with drugs because when you take drugs as long as I did, and as powerful as drugs as I took, for the length of time I took them, you're going to get hooked.
Dan Adams for CBS News, Livermore, California.
American cooking, Chris, it's rarely considered exotic, no?
Well, that's true in many cases, but that might also just be its strong point. Just ahead, we're going to see some of the simple virtues that are making American cuisine the hottest new item on the menu. Stay with us.
This man is Charles Schwab. You may not know him, but Wall Street does, because Charles Schwab has built a giant brokerage firm on a single new idea. Investors who don't need a broker's advice shouldn't pay for it. When Charles Schwab customers buy or sell, they save up to 75% of the commissions they'd have to pay full commission brokers. At Charles Schwab & Company, brokers don't advise. They execute orders, often in 60 seconds. Your securities are protected up to $500,000. Idle investment cash can be automatically transferred to a money market fund. Today, Charles Schwab's company, a member of the New York Stock Exchange, is the largest discount brokerage firm in the country, with over 40 offices nationwide. If you can decide on your own what securities you want to buy or sell, phone Charles Schwab. For your free information kit and rate schedule, call this toll-free number now, 800-453-4800. That's 800-453-4800.
Are you going to let your daughter go without?
I try not to.
Then use a complete toothpaste.
Complete?
Triple protection Aquafresh.
All the cavity-fighting fluoride of the leading paste. All the breath freshener of the leading gel. And gentle cleaners that even remove stained film. Concentrated in one complete toothpaste.
That's complete.
Triple protection Aquafresh. A complete toothpaste.
Well, Sam, are we going or not?
Are you kidding? It's the worst day of the year, and my throat's sore.
Then take new Maximum Strength Sucrets.
Maximum Strength Sucrets?
Try it.
Introducing new Maximum Strength Sucrets. For fast, temporary relief of minor sore throat pain, you can't get more pain-relieving hexylresorcinol with or without a prescription.
Better?
Sure. So, are we going or not?
New Maximum Strength Sucrets. You can't get more pain-relieving hexylresorcinol with or without a prescription.
This morning, we're touching on a subject close to the hearts and stomachs of many people, food, yum yum. We tend to think the best of it may be French or Italian or maybe even Chinese, but recently I asked some gourmets and found to my surprise that good cooking is becoming as American as apple pie.
Yes, sir. 2 French fries, 1 cheeseburger, and 1 plain hamburger with just meat and bread.
Wash the cheese, have the mayonnaise cut in half, fries, small toast.
The grand old USA has become the land of junk food.
3 Whoppers and 3 small oranges and 1 French fry.
Having it your way doesn't mean you're going to give your stomach a break today. We seem to have become a nation of McNuggets, Whoppers, and finger lickers when it comes to eating out. The insult we inflict on our innards is topped only by the injury we suffer in our wallets when we go out for a so-called fine meal at some French bistro, where reading the menu is only the first hurdle of a gastronomic obstacle course.
Raisin alive, half Maine lobster, prepared Parisian, call for appetizer.
But just a minute, please. After decades of playing the baked beans circuit, America may finally be coming to the point where it can call its cooking cuisine.
I think this is the great surge of eating, plus the fact that people in the last 20 years have traveled more than they've ever traveled. They take a...
James Beard is viewed by many as the granddaddy of American cuisine.
They go everywhere and they learn more and more.
There's many people like myself who are saying, yes, we are Americans, and yes, we are as fine as any other restaurant or any other cuisine in the world.
Larry Forgione of the River Cafe under the Brooklyn Bridge is a strong believer that American cuisine can be #1.
In defining the future of American cuisine or the new American cuisine, I think it's going to be a balance or a marriage between the ingredients of our native land combined with a modern, simple, sophisticated way of cooking. People have said that I'm a pioneer of the new American cuisine. What I would like to think is that I'm a pioneer of a new American awareness. Yeah. But the key factor for young chefs is that they're interested, dedicated, and willing to work for what they believe in.
Entrance and exit to the kitchen. This is a salad bar up at the top there. Okay, everybody familiar with what we got?
Cooking for cash may not be the world's oldest profession, but cooking schools around the country are now turning away scores of aspiring chefs. The Culinary Institute of America has a 3-year waiting list. The school's president, Ferdinand Metz.
The benefit of all will be that the strong concepts will survive, whereas the weak ones will fall by the wayside. And in 5 years from now, we'll have a very strong concept of American cuisine, which will be able to be further developed and perpetuated and will be around for many, many years to come.
The concept seems to have really caught on in many large cities across the country in a wide variety of forms. Those who think takeout is for pizza or chop suey have thought twice after shopping at American gourmet-to-go shops like The Natural Source in New York.
I think American food is boring, and this is more, I mean, it's good, you know, I like turkey and everything, but this is just, it has more to it.
More and more becoming what I associate with American cuisine. Less of the junk food, more of the good quality stuff.
But the most unusual dish sold here is not what you might think. What would you consider to be the most unusual dish that you sell?
Roast chicken and dumplings.
You're kidding.
To me, that is.
Robert Cobb has made a multi-million-dollar business out of his premise that people are craving wholesome food prepared in a sophisticated manner. Where are we going now, Robert? Does American cookery have a direction at this point, and if so, what is that?
Back to basics, back to early frontier days. The cornbread, you know, roast chicken and dumplings, the basics. That's what I do.
If all these champions of the new American cuisine accomplish what they have set out to do, the American diner will be the real winner. For where else in the world is there so much to eat and so much to choose from?
Okay, if you're hungry, so are the Milwaukee Brewers. Game 5 is history, and the Milwaukee Brewers are glad of it. The 6-4 victory over St. Louis equals a 3-2 advantage, and the magic number is now 1 for the Brewers. So watch out. Sports coming up next on Nightwatch.
Some airlines don't let you know where you'll be sitting until you get on the plane.
Can we switch seats?
May I sit with my
That's my
husband?
seat. I want to sit further up.
But on American Airlines,
You can select your seat when you make your reservation.
So you know where you'll be sitting even before you get to the airport.
There must be some mistake, boss. Our seats aren't together. No mistake, Fletcher. The boss.
We're American Airlines, doing what we do best.
Some people might criticize me for getting too involved with the news I report, but I care about those stories because they're stories about people. Even my special segment, Giving It Back, is about people who care enough to help or improve the lives of others. And people are the one thing you can't care too much about. Now, if that's something to criticize, I'll take all the criticism I can get. That's Channel 2 News. If it concerns you, it concerns us.
One child, one life, your chance to give.
Foster Parents Plan translates your love into food, clothing, and education to help save the world, one child at a time.
It's gonna be a little better world.
Support the Foster Parents Plan. Call 800-621-5809.
If you're thinking about the style of the clothes you wear, come out to the Rainbow Shop. Finest prices and selection you'll find anywhere. Come out to the Rainbow Shop.
Now's the time to get a new coat. Rainbow Shops has slashed prices 20% on every single coat and jacket in the store during their Columbus Day coat and jacket sale.
If you're thinking about the style of the clothes you wear, come out to the Rainbow Shop. Come out to the Rainbow Shop.
All right, Milwaukee beat St. Louis 6-4 in Game 5 of the series on Sunday. It was the last time the Brewers will play baseball at home in '82, and they went out with a bang. First inning, Bob Forsch attempted a pickoff at second. Instead, the ball went into center field, and the Brewers got their first run because of it. In the third, Milwaukee went ahead 2-1 when Cecil Cooper's grounder scored Paul Molitor, but Keith Hernandez's stop on the bad hop foiled the rally. In the seventh, St. Louis trailed 3-2 after George Hendrick singled to score Ozzie Smith. They had something cooking when Cooper and Caldwell combined to get Darrell Porter at first. That ended that. To end it even further, Robin Yount homered to top another spectacular 4-for-4 night. The Brewers added 2 in the 8th, to the Cardinals 2 in the 9th, 6-4 Milwaukee, and it's on to St. Louis for Game 6 on Tuesday. Some of the NFL players played while their representatives continued to talk in Hunt Valley, Maryland to try to end their 4-week-old strike. It was hardly Super Bowl caliber football, but Don Strock did find Ray Butler for a 61-yard TD pass in the AFC's losing cause. The NFC won the All-Star game 23-22. No injuries reported in the game. Now to the talks. NFL mediator Sam Cagle is upholding his news blackout rule, but Sunday he decided to explain his role in that talk.
The mediator is primarily a facilitator of the negotiation process. He or she is concerned with keeping the negotiations going, with arranging for meetings, with trying very desperately in some instances and very easily in others to see that the parties stay on an even keel while negotiations are going on.
In NHL action, the Rangers lost to Los Angeles. Viktor Nechayev, the first Russian to play in the NHL, scored his first NHL goal in the win. Buffalo beat Edmonton, Chicago over Detroit, Calgary, and Winnipeg tied at 5. John McEnroe served up 14 aces against Gene Mayer to win his 3rd straight Australian indoor tennis title. The set scores were 6-4, 6-1, 6-4. Spain's Seve Ballesteros sank a 35-foot birdie putt in the second sudden death world match play Sunday to win the $70,000 first prize money. Ballesteros beat Britain's Sandy Lyle, who missed his putt from 20 feet. Bill Rogers won the Melbourne Marathon on Sunday with a record time. He knocked 6 seconds off the course record to finish in 2 hours, 11 minutes, and 8 seconds. It was a double win, a double American win, for Sue King of Alabama won the ladies section in a time of 2 hours, 37 minutes, and 57 seconds.
Well, the winners of this year's Nobel Prizes in chemistry and physics are to be announced in Stockholm this morning. The 81-year-old awards carry cash grants of $157,000 this year. The prizes for peace and medicine were awarded last week. Wildlife experts in Brazil launching an unprecedented rescue mission this morning. They're trying to save thousands of jaguars and monkeys, lizards and snakes, etc., from the rising waters of a new man-made lake. The 570 square mile body of water will cover what's now farmland and forests. The new lake will help fuel the world's largest hydroelectric power plant.
In the next half hour, the media held hostage. What happens when a kidnapper demands that television, radio, or newspapers help him negotiate freedom for his hostages? We'll meet one reporter who played go-between last weekend. Should news people become the story instead of reporting it? That's in the next half hour on Nightwatch.
For some people, life exists between two sets of goal posts. They become football coaches. But for some football coaches, those goal posts point the way to a higher meaning for all mankind. Those people become like Joe Kapp, a unique figure indeed. Robert Lipsyte of CBS News Sunday Morning took the field with the coach of the California Golden Bears.
35! Play 35! Set, on! I do! On the field, have a baby run, drive it!
Joe Kapp is back at Cal. The macho quarterback who never caked out, who dragged pro football to the Supreme Court, is now a teacher of the game and of life.
I think life is for living. I think that one of the challenges to come back to and coach right now is part of that. I mean, the action, the excitement, that's living, believe me. To lay it on the line like you have to do in the game of football is exciting.
Get him going, get him going, get him going. Ball in the pit, ball in the pit.
Football is 100 years old at the University of California at Berkeley. There have been few winning seasons since Joe Kapp played here. There is drama in his homecoming, and there is pain. Kapp raised the price by increasing and intensifying the practice sessions. He demanded more of an emotional commitment. Even a player with pro aspirations, like offensive lineman Harvey Salem, had his doubts.
It's just so different, just the way he comes out. You know, he's kind of a lunatic at first. You're not sure where he's coming from, and then I'll start to see that, you know, he's really very sincere in what he's saying to you. I don't know if we're going to make it through the year, but we're working real hard.
If the experience that our players are having is not an educational experience, then what are we doing here? And I think that as human beings, we should spend the rest of our lives isn't knowledge power? Trying to improve ourselves. It's what separates us from animals.
To listen to Joe Kapp, the 44 years of his life have been a preparation for this job. He was raised poor but optimistic in Salinas, Steinbeck country, by a Mexican mother and a German father. He always had hope.
For me to come and get a scholarship to play at the university and attend the university and get that education, and then also to come back and coach, I mean, it's like a dream come true for me.
Kapp finally made the NFL. He lasted 4 years. In 1970, he led the Minnesota Vikings to the Super Bowl, lost the game, lost a salary dispute, and eventually lost a lawsuit challenging pro football's free agency restrictions.
It's kind of an irony in the sense that had they dealt with you in what would have been a rational and fair way then, they probably wouldn't have had a strike now. I think that's key to this whole situation with the players' union. If management, if the owners would have been fair right down the line, there'd be no problems. But the game is great, and everybody's making money, and, you know, so they continue to go and play it, and it preys on one thing, the addiction of players wanting to play. That attraction is powerful. Winning is the bottom line over here somewhere. In my opinion, you play like you practice, and you practice like you live. Well, there is a result on Saturday afternoon, and that's nice in life. It's either win, which is absolute heaven, or lose, which is hell.
On this Saturday, it was heaven, which perhaps explains why, on Sunday, Cap was so high on the game.
Maybe if we had a football game, you know, versus the Russians, or let the Arabs and the Israelis fight each other or whatever, you know, maybe that'd be better. Play football against each other.
Do you think that would be a good idea?
Yes, I think so.
Would you like to be the coach?
No, I'm coaching where I want to be, University of California.
And this is where we'll be for 3 more hours. We'll update news and sports in just a moment.
From CBS News, this is Nightwatch with Harold Dahl, Felicia Jeter, Chris Glenn, and Karen Stone.
And good morning, I'm Harold Dow. Today we'll replay an unusual hostage drama that unfolded in New York last weekend.
Instead of just reporting what happened, the press was part of what happened. We'll be discussing who is responsible when a kidnapper demands time on the air. But first, here's Chris with the news. Good morning, Chris.
Hi, Karen. Thank you. A vote is expected today on a move to expel Israel from an agency of the United Nations. The International Communications Union takes up the Algerian-sponsored resolution at its conference in Nairobi. The U.S. and other Western nations are threatening to walk out of the conference if Israel is ordered out. In New York, Lebanese President Amin Gemayel addresses the UN General Assembly today. Gemayel, on his first foreign trip as Lebanon's head of state, is expected to call for massive aid to rebuild his war-torn nation. The 40-year-old leader arrived in New York on Sunday to the cheers of groups of Lebanese Americans. Gemayel told his supporters he would need their help to restore peace and independence to Lebanon. The congressional election's just 2 weeks away now, and there's politics in the air. On Sunday, House Speaker Thomas O'Neill sent a letter to his Democratic colleagues saying President Reagan's economic program was based on, quote, pie-in-the-sky optimism. Reaganomics was also criticized by a prominent liberal economist. Lester Thurow of MIT on Sunday warned of permanent economic stagnation.
The idea that spontaneous combustion is going to occur, somehow the private economy is just going to take off by itself, that's precisely what got Herbert Hoover in trouble for 50 years ago. We sat around waiting for something positive to happen. That something positive never happened, and we ended up with financial crises making sinking economies worse, and we ended up in that predicament that we now know as the Great Depression.
The Great Depression left its mark on President Reagan. At least that's what the president told U.S. News and World Report. In an interview published on Sunday, Mr. Reagan says living through the Depression gave him a special feeling for America's jobless. Quote, it isn't ice water, it's real blood that I bleed for the unemployed, said the president. Federal agents involved in the massive drug crackdown around